Hello everyone and welcome back to the channel. I am Abe with MysticGenMara.com, a small town mystic from the middle of Idaho. And tonight I was going to do a Myth and Tarot episode, had everything set up for it, and on my drive home from work there was a little bit of an intervention that occurred. So, one of the angels decided that they wanted me to discuss them tonight. So, instead of doing Myth and Tarot, we are going to discuss Archangel Cassiel. And Archangel Cassiel is one of what I would call the newer angels, although Cassiel, unlike some of the other ones that are out there, has a history. And the history goes back almost 1,500 years that I have found. So, this is just one of the images that I have found, and it's not the best, and I'll explain why as we go through this. This is more of the a Catholic saint version of Cassiel, which is fine, don't get me wrong, but it's not quite the image once you get to know a little bit more about him. So, we'll start off with that. If you are new here, please drop a like on the video, hit that subscribe button so you know when I go live or drop new videos. Comment away if you're watching during the stream. Go ahead and chat in the chat box. I have all my chats open so I'll see them. But otherwise, we'll get going. And if you're watching this on replay, please comment. Let me know if you've ever had an experience with this angel, if this is a new one, what your thoughts are. With that, we'll get going. So, Archangel Cassiel. New angel. One of the definitions, and probably the best that I've found, is the speed of God. Archangel Cassiel is also known as the Angel of Solitude or the Solitary Angel. And that goes, again, into some things later on. But a little foreshadow there for you. We'll go through some different aspects of this angel before we get into the meat and bones. The planet most commonly associated with Cassiel is the planet of Saturn. And this one was an odd one for me because angels who have his particular skill set, Saturn seems like an odd one because Saturn is such a stern, formative, black and white planet, but it actually fits him quite well. The elemental energy most easily associated with Cassiel is Earth. When working with Cassiel, if you want to use candles or you like to drape, if you do an altar setting and you want to drape cloth over it to contact this angel, you want to work with indigo, that deep blue purple, really deep shades of blue, deep shades of purple, or just straight up black. Again, not the most common colors or association with the angelic hosts. You can work with, if you like to work with crystals and stones, it's azurite, iolite, deep blues, obsidian, onyx, jet black. You can always use agate or clear quartz. Due to the nature of working with the angels, those are the best options. You can also use smoky quartz more specifically because it does resonate to that deeper tones. Hematite, magnetic or not. Jasper, again, the darker versions. Pyrite, which is interesting because it's very golden, but it also works with healing energy. So you've got a little bit of that. Pyrite's not known as a healing stone per se, but it does work that direction, so there's some of that. You can also use kunzite as long as you're using darker shades. Of course, if you're working with Saturn energy, and Cassiel works very heavily with Saturn energy, if you use metal, it's lead. I recommend not eating this or holding it in your hand during meditation. Just having it on the altar is enough. You don't need to touch it more than necessary. And this one is a little bit interesting, and I'll get into this a little bit more. The choir for Cassiel is most commonly associated as an archangel, so one of the first 3 levels. But he has access to some of the highest aspects of heaven, and is also said to be one of the thrones, which again, he's got dual position in heaven, if you want to use that term. You can work with incenses with clary sage, which is, in my experience, a little bit sweeter of the sages. It's very pleasant, but not one that I like to use personally. We'll just say that. You can use cypress, marjoram as a plant. Doesn't have a strong incense, but you can make tea out of it and use that as a precursor to meditation if you choose. Patchouli and violets. Kind of going with this earthy theme as we go through here. If you want to work with Cassiel, he will help align chakras, and so there's not one chakra that he's most associated with. It's the combination of all of them. Oh, I missed something. Haha, sorry. My notes are all over the place anymore, so if you work with animal spirits, or you start to notice as you're reaching out to Cassiel, the very specific animals start popping up. The most commonly associated are a dove. Again, doesn't quite fit Cassiel's personality overall, but there are aspects of him. A dragon fits very well. Snow owl. Again, very white, but not something you'd associate with Cassiel when you get to know him more better. The raven and crows, that fits perfectly. And with all this air, earth type stuff going on, this one, I had to do a little digging to figure out why they associate him, and that's the dolphin. There's a reason, and we'll get into that, but that's another interesting animal association. In the Kabbalah, which ties into a lot of your ceremonial magic and the ceremonial rituals, Cassiel is most commonly associated with the Sephira of Bina, which is the Sephira of understanding, knowledge, wisdom, seeing the cosmos, being an observer, not an active participant. That is the energy that works with the Bina Sephira, and that's the energy that Cassiel brings forward. So, Cassiel, when he appears in a physical form, doesn't always happen, but when it does, sometimes shows up with a beard. It's not the norm with the angelic hosts that I've dealt with. I've known a few other people who've made comments to a random angel will show up with a beard, but it's very uncommon. Cassiel, it tends to be more common than not, so just be aware of that when you're working with this energy. Cassiel's appearance always comes across very dark. He tends to be dressed in black robes, indigo robes. He's not known specifically as an angel of death. He doesn't have ties to the angels of death. He doesn't have ties to the Grim Reaper. But he tends towards the darkness. He tends to observe from the shadows, and so the darker shades are more his. Some say that his halo is black flame. In the little bit of interactions that I've had, and it's not been super common, just because he's not the angel I tend to reach out to the most. But I have worked a little bit with him, and I've never noticed a halo. Some of the angels have very distinctive ones. His, I've never noticed, and it could be just the fact that he's always in shadow. He, at times, will show up riding a massive dragon, and this is a symbol of the great, and I mean significant, power that Cassiel wields. And in the older grimoires, which are books of occult ritual magic, this is how he was most commonly depicted. He's not a demonic. He shows up in some of the like the Key of Solomon and some of these other books, but he's always a defender. And so seeing him come in on a dragon, some people are a little bit not okay with that, but it's a symbol of riding power and authority. His dominion is beyond what you would think in most cases. This angel, weirdly enough, judging by, he rides dragons and he's dark and creepy, one of his biggest missions, or one of his biggest powers, is compassion. Sometimes Cassiel, and some of the side literature, not like the main grimoires and things like that, will call Cassiel the angel who weeps silently. The heartache and grief of this world, all the nonsense that we do, animals against each other, the planet against us, us against the planet, just breaks his heart. It really makes him struggle. He feels what we feel. Like the term empathy, we don't have a clue because of what he experiences. Like what we feel is like this much compared to the ocean that he can experience. So if you're empathic and you feel other people's thoughts, feelings, and emotions, you might reach out to Cassiel if you're ready for what happens when you call on him. We'll get into that because it's a little intense, but he can help you understand the unique gift. Some people call it a curse, but it's really a gift to be able to see and experience what the other person is doing, because it gives you the opportunity to help them process. That is something that he can help you with, and help you understand how empathy is a gift and how not to let it dominate. Because if you do have empathy, but you don't know how to use it, it will smother you. It will suffocate you. You will feel everything from the people around you to such an extent you can't separate their emotions from yours. That's not healthy, first of all. And that's something that he can help you differentiate, so you can experience it, understand where they're coming from, and help them process if they're willing to. But you're not taking it on and you're not carrying it with you. That is the curse of empathy, is not knowing how to separate, and that's something that he can help you process. So, again, probably something not bad to have on work with a little bit there. His presence can be felt as a great peace and comfort in times of trials. In this aspect, he's sometimes seen as the angel of the moon. Although the lunar energy is more of a secondary trait, Saturn is the dominant trait for him. When you're working in that aspect, or you're going through a lot of struggles and a lot of frustrations and a lot of things are just tearing you down, they're weighing on you very heavily, Cassiel can come in and it's almost like you have someone behind you, but it's a comforting presence. It's like that hand on your shoulder where you don't know if you can make it another day. You just don't know if you can take another sling or another arrow. The customers, the family, all of it is just piling up. And all of a sudden you just have this presence that there's someone with you. It's a calming sensation. In most cases, that's Cassiel, because he's coming in, or one of your personal guides or guardians, but he's coming in to help you understand you're not alone. It may feel like you're going through hell, but you're not alone. And that's one of his gifts, but he's very quiet about it. It's not bombastic. So, when you're going through some of this stuff, your fuse, your little fuse on your temper, can get a little bit on the short side. But Cassiel can help you work and develop patience, can help you build fortitude against the slings and arrows. That doesn't mean that you're going to wall yourself away from the world, but proper, healthy energy boundaries are a very good thing. And this is something that Cassiel's known to help with. His energy can assist you in restoring balance within your life, but you have to have a part in this. He's not going to do all the work. That's the one thing with this particular angel. If you're expecting him to fix everything, might want to call on someone else, because he will help you, but he's going to show you the steps to do the patient, the quiet, the inner work. He will guide you and he will support you, but he's not going to do it for you. Straight up, that is not how he works. So, Cassiel can help us accept things in this now moment. Understanding the past and all of its lessons, let us know what will be. So you're living here now, this moment. You're understanding your past, but you're seeing the future. You're seeing the patterns that have played out in history. Your history, world history, however that works. But you're seeing it then, you're understanding it in the now. It's allowing you to understand things as they are coming. Not the most comfortable experience, but when you can understand the pattern, you can start to unravel it and fix it. So, he brings the wisdom to understand why things are the way they are now, because you can see the pattern in the past. It doesn't mean you can't change the future. He helps you understand and see the current path that you're on, how you got to this point, the patterns that are in play. By understanding it, you can fix them for the future. This is how you improve the future. It's not so much predicting the future, it's understanding past patterns, seeing future outcome. That's one of his gifts, to help you understand it's all someone else's fault. Not really. No, that's not how he plays. He's going to be like, you can say that, but this and this and this and this, and now you're here blaming that other person, but they weren't even involved. So there's, some things going on like that. Where are we at? Sorry. In the Zohar, which I have not read completely yet, mainly because it's massive, Cassiel is known as one of Archangel Gabriel's chief aides. In a lot of older texts, he is directly tied to Gabriel, and that means in some of the ancient grimoires as well as some of the ancient spiritual texts, Gabriel and Cassiel tend to be linked closely. What is interesting to me, though, and this is something that I work through every time I come across some of these interesting alignments, Cassiel is an earth-aligned angel when we talk about the elements, which would mean Uriel, because Uriel is the angel of the north and of earth. But he is not directly connected in any source that I found so far to Uriel. He's connected specifically to watery Gabriel and, oddly enough, the western direction, which controls water and emotions. And with this alignment being unique, he's known with the title of Thrones as his choir as the guardian in heavenly places. And it's this specific set of alignments that lead to this title. Again, doesn't make a lot of sense when you understand the elements, but when we're talking angelic hosts, they're beyond our three-dimensional world, so there's a lot of variance when you start getting up there. And when we talk about the guardian of heavenly palaces and places, there's a huge debate amongst the occultists, because some say that he is the guardian for the second level palaces, others say the sixth, some say the highest, the seventh. You get a pick. Because when you look at the different levels of the palaces, the resonance between 2, 6, and 7 for his abilities and powers are all pretty similar. So you might actually have him being in charge of the guardians that protect all of those. But again, the sources are a little bit not different. They're a little bit odd because they all have a different set. So I think it kind of depends on what is it you're working towards, which court you're working in, as to where he shows up in that aspect. So, also tied to watery Gabriel, and this, I mentioned this earlier in the stream, is his association with dolphins. There is a couple of sources I saw that specifically tie Cassiel as a patron to dolphins, a patron of the deep, the dark depths of the ocean, that beating heart of the sea, so to speak, that is unknowable. It's so dark. We know more about the moon than we know about the depths of the ocean, and that's kind of where the concept with Cassiel comes in, and the dolphins, because they interact with us, but they also tend to be deep. They can go deeper than a lot of other creatures. So, with those references, they say that Cassiel is known to interpret the language of dolphins. So if you ever get the chance, something on my bucket list, to swim with the dolphins and actually interact with them in the ocean sense, even if you're doing it in like the theme parks or something like that, asking Cassiel to help you understand the nature and communication with the dolphins would be a very advisable thing, because he knows their language very intimately, so he can help you understand that communication. So let's see where we're at here. There we are. Cassiel also makes many appearances, as I've referenced before through this episode, in grimoire style texts. I personally have read several of these, and I'm not going to go into a lot of details with this, because grimoires have twofold purposes. One, understanding your consciousness and your place in the universe. Two, to summon and work with spiritual forces. Cassiel comes in as an angel to help control demons. In some of the Middle Eastern religions and texts, he actually is the commander, and not so much commander, more of the jailer, so to speak, of the demons and the jinn. We'll talk about jinn later. It's not the genie in the bottle stuff. It's a lot darker than that. But this, if you're looking in the ancient grimoires, this is the sigil or seal of Cassiel. It has some aspects of Saturn in there as well. The names around the outside are the other names that Cassiel works with to support him, but this is kind of more of the seals if you're looking into that. And if you want to actually, because he's a protective angel as well, in the description down below I have linked a couple of sigils or pendants, necklaces that have the seal of Cassiel or the other angels as guardian angels, and their affiliate links. So if you click on those links, it does help support the channel. So just something if you're interested in those. But yeah, like I said, I'm not in this particular forum gonna go into a lot of the grimoire stuff. If you want, I can do specific streams for that, but we're talking about the angels and not about the other things along that. So Cassiel, with his more darker demeanor, has also been seen in a couple of sources as the angel of time itself. And when you see him in this aspect, you'll see him carrying an hourglass. Some people have seen him carrying a scythe, which is where they get this association with death. It's not time. Everything has a time, and he is there to monitor that, or at least observe it. He doesn't interact with humanity as much as some of the other angels. You actually have to reach out to him or be open in that situation of time and trial for his presence to be coming in. Part of that is, from my experience with Cassiel, he limits who he chooses to interact with. And that doesn't mean he doesn't care. He observes and he comforts, but from a silent perspective, from a separated perspective. The reason is he prefers a solitary life. Observing, but not interacting. he carries so much empathy that for him to work with humanity is not the most comfortable thing. So when he chooses to, it's on his terms, and it's only in a time of need. That does not mean that he won't come when you call. He just is not going to show up for frivolity. It has to be a reason. Now, I have, because of, again, some of the things that I've studied and researched and wanted to know more, I have reached out to Cassiel at times, and there's some times where I just, nothing, blank void, absolutely no contact. But there's been other times where I want to understand more about him, have a connection, start to meet, learn something along those lines. And when that happens, I have had minor interactions. That's why I know when he shows up what his demeanor is. And I have learned a few things like that about him. Most of it has been from study, but he has made interaction on a couple of occasions. So he will show up. It's just a matter of, I'm having a rough day today, but so-and-so is mean to me. He's not showing up for that. No, absolutely not. But you're in that deeper aspect of stress, the job, the spouse, the house. That's when he's going to come forward, because you're in a state at that point where his abilities and power can help you most. You may not feel more than just the presence, and things start to become more organized and more orderly. Or it could be a little bit more dramatic than that, where all of a sudden things align, where you're like, wait, what just happened? Because that's where he wants order, and he wants to fix problems, not deal with frivolous things. So that is a big thing with him. Just heads up. Cassiel, as a gatekeeper and guardian in the heavenly courts, can be viewed as a guide between realms and a guide between worlds or dimensions. When you are looking at it in that aspect, it's the guide between life and death, the guide between night and day, light and dark, positive, negative, all of these aspects of transition where you're in the middle. That's the type of thing he can help you understand. So if you're dealing with a lot of things where people have passed and there's just been one after another, and trust me, we've all been through aspects of life where this happens. This can be an angel that can benefit just helping you understand that transition, help you understand why. Accidents, family drama, especially when it involves illnesses and things like that, Cassiel can help you see the why. This is what's going on. This was an agreement their soul made before they even incarnated. However it works, that he can help you understand and process that, especially when it's the heavier emotions, intense trauma, intense grief, intense unaliving urges. He can help you cope and work through some of that. Is he going to work like I said, wave a magic wand? No. But he can help you see that it's not always maybe as bad, or maybe there's more to the situation than what you realize. So, again, he's a powerful angel. He just doesn't show up for minor things. Some sources say that Cassiel is the angel who presides over or observes the unaliving of young men, princes, and kings. It's not to discredit the female lines, but he specifically works with the crossing over of the males in wartime, of higher authority people. Now, there are other angels, we'll talk about those later, that do work specifically with the female lines in this aspect, but because of his position, that is where he rolls. And when you look at a lot of the times the young men at war, or the princes and kings who pass over, these are people, as a rule, who are lonely. It doesn't matter how, like, you can read some of the old stories about, like, King Henry VII and all his amorous adventures and all of the rest of that stuff. But when you really get down to brass tacks, these are people who tend to be very alone. They are separated away from others. More so, it happens in men. It happens with women too. But with what Cassiel works with, it's that separation of the men. The men who tend to be more stoic. They tend to shut down and not talk about their emotions. Things happen. They have to be the strong, stalwart ones that deal with all of this stuff. This is the type of thing where he's helping them, when they pass over and transition, understand, you did the right things. This is what happened. This is why. And here's where we're going. So it's a way to help understand that loneliness, that solitude, that fill in the blank. That was not, you weren't alone during all of that. There was always someone there to help you pass through that. And that's the energy that Cassiel will bring. So, again, not knocking anybody, but that is the specific energy that Cassiel works with. He is known as the patron of the downtrodden, the overlooked, and the ignored. Again, going with that solitary theme. Those who are in weakened states due to abuse or life really slinging curveballs at you. Currently dealing with some of that myself, so I do understand some of that. And not so much the abuse part, it's just the life hurling curveballs one after another where you're like, okay, are we done yet? Anyone who is oppressed, abused, or unjustly persecuted or attacked, Cassiel will intervene. He does not deal well with that. Justice and honesty is his thing. When you're having this other stuff come in, unless it's something that your soul agreed to, even then he's going to help you understand it, learn the lesson, and get out of that situation. So he does not want this stuff happening to us any more than we want it happening to us. Being a patron to these people, he comes in to show you the path, the lesson. Understand, process, learn, move on. Improve your existence. He's not going to let you stay in that state unless you really kick back and say, no, I have to be here. At which point he's going to put his hands up and walk away. He's not going to fight you. But he is going to show you a pathway out, a pathway to fix the problem. What is the next step to learn the lesson and process through this situation? Your soul has a mission, whether you realize it or not. And that mission can be partially revealed because we're not allowed to know the whole thing. But he can reveal why this aspect is going on and help you learn that lesson and move through it. Because we have these things happen to us because we have lessons to learn. And once you learn the lesson, 90% of the time, the situation fades. And that's the things that he can help you work with. Now, this is where we get into what I was saying earlier about you just don't want to call on him for no purpose. Because, and I'm going to phrase this specifically this way. Beware. If you do call on this angel, and I'm not saying you can't, just pay attention. His appearance is not, and I know this because I've had this interaction, it is not white light, butterflies, rainbows, friendly. He walks in darkness. He helps heal the wounds we don't talk about. He helps you process, understand, and enlighten your shadow. Those deep wounds that you have repressed that are festering. The patterns that are repeating like a broken record because for some unknown reason our stubborn little brains hold on to this thing saying I have to feel this trauma, causing stress, causing sleepless nights, and all the rest of that fun stuff. He will help you unravel that and process it. He's known as the angel of karma. This is the other part of the warning. If you call on him and your karma is out of balance, he will help bring it to balance. And that could mean a little bit more shaking up in life because some things need to be knocked loose. But the outcome will be an improvement. That is the part with him that is very consistent. He's not someone you want to call on for frivolous needs, because if it's truly frivolous, the best option, he won't show up. The other option, he shows up and is like, this is why you called. We have some things to fix. Life can get a little interesting at that point. It's not bad, but you've got karma to clear, and that's something he's going to help process. And the best part about it is he works in alignment with your soul's mission. So you might not notice what your soul is chatting about, your higher self, your higher consciousness, but your life may have to have some upheaval to knock that stuff out of your system. You know, it's like shaking out the chaff from the wheat. You don't just, oh, I'm just going to blow on it a little bit. You got to shake that stuff up. You've got to knock it loose. That's kind of how it is when you're balancing out karma. So just be aware that you don't want to call on him again for frivolous. You need to know what you're stepping into if you're doing it not from a place of living in the dark. Like you're wanting to understand something. Cool. Be ready for the answer. Part of another thing that Cassiel, and we're almost done here, the other part that Cassiel has been referenced as is a phantom or the ghost angel, because he walks in darkness, lives in the shadows. And because he rides a dragon, which is pretty cool for an angel, and he lives within that darkness, when he shows up, especially when you've called him, his appearance, like I said, can be a little bit startling. As a reminder, I think this is the right one, that it's not the most genteel thing. He shows up carrying a big old wand, wearing, you know, a crown, dressed in generally black. I'm not sure where they got the red at. But he's riding a dragon that's spewing fire. Like, it can be a little intense. But his heart glows with peace, with love, and compassion. No matter how hostile he may appear. That is his purpose. That is the thing that he works with the most. In the darkness, no matter how dark things feel for you, ever, there's always a guide. Sometimes that guide is an angel of light, you know, Gabriel, Michael, Uriel, Raphael, Metatron, Sandalphon, Camiel, you know, one of the light angels. But sometimes you have to pass through the darkness and you need to stumble. You need to understand why you're in that dark space. Cassiel is one of the angels that can help you process, work through, and understand that part of life a little bit better and help you learn the lesson so that you don't have to go back to that part of life. So, with that being said, we'll wrap this one up. If you enjoyed this, please drop a like on it. Hit that subscribe button if you're new here. Comment below. Let me know your thoughts. If you've ever had any interactions with Cassiel. If this is a new angel for you. All of that fun stuff. And like I said, if you're interested in just some random Cassiel stuff, the links in the description will take to some pendants, some necklaces that are guardian angel necklaces. And any of those links down below can help support the channel if you click through them. I also offer personal readings and aura readings, tarot readings, things like that. And you can find out more about that at my website, linked in the description as well. I will talk to you guys later. Hopefully get back onto a normal schedule. This week was a little bit weird because I had something planned, and yeah, angels tend to bring forward when they are ready to discuss topics. So we went we went that route today. Have a great rest of your week, and I will talk to you guys in a future video.